Today, in a special report, the Daily Wire brings you the chronology of a Hillary Clinton scandal. Friday, March 18th, midnight. Barack Obama's replacement deputy assistant interim acting former press secretary Olga Yama-Nama-Lumowicz calls a late-night press conference for a blogger named Jerry. Miss Yama-Nama-Lumowicz, speaking in a rare dialect of Finnish Serbo-Croatian, announces that in response to a FOIA request filed by Judicial Watch in 1977, the administration is releasing a massive stack of documents, videotapes, empty pizza cartons, and out-of-print paperback novels. Monday, June 6, 6 a.m. After combing for weeks through the massive stack of material, blogger Jerry discovers a flash drive containing an erased but recoverable iPhone video showing Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin seducing a 12-year-old boy into a menage a trois, then shooting him to death to keep him quiet, then devouring his body to hide the evidence. After sending a copy of the video to Matt Drudge, blogger Jerry goes out for a walk and is run over by a taxicab 17 times. 15 minutes later, the Drudge Report runs a picture of a police siren on top of a red-letter headline, Hill and Huma seduce, kill, and devour 12-year-old, with a link to the video on YouTube. YouTube responds to the high traffic by taking the video down, saying it violates their terms of service agreement. A Google search for Hillary Huma seduce, kill returns 13 results, all of them related to the film Finding Nemo. No major news outlet covers the story. Tuesday through Thursday, June 7th through 9th, all across the internet, right-wing websites run bootleg copies of the video explicitly showing the atrocity. The murdered boy's weeping mother appears on Sean Hannity, explaining why she's going to vote for Donald Trump. Monday, June 13th. After a weekend in which the Twitter hashtag #HillaryKillFeast is trending around the world, Hillary Clinton issues a statement saying the release of the video is a wacky right-wing plot to exploit material hacked off her phone by Russians trying to manipulate an American presidential election. The New York Times, a former newspaper, covers the story with the headline, GOP seeks to use video to prevent first woman presidency. Donald Trump sends out a tweet calling Joe Scarborough a loser who's in bed with Jeff Zucker. Tuesday, June 14th, the story breaks big. The New York Times, ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN all lead with headlines screaming, Donald Trump slings gay slur at Joe Scarborough. During a panel discussion, CNN's Andrea Mitchell says, quote, this could have been a bad week for the Clinton campaign, what with the whole lesbian murder and cannibalism story, but Donald Trump blew it off the front pages with another of his OMG gaffes. Wednesday, June 15th. At a campaign stop in New Mecca, Michigan, a reporter shouts a question about the scandal at Hillary from the iron press cage behind a rope 30 yards away. Mrs. Clinton responds, that's old news. Here, have a piece of chocolate-covered 12-year-old's eyeball. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. All right, you got to change that thing with my last time I laughed is now one day. All right, it's mailbag day. Hooray. But you got to subscribe to be in the mailbag. It's 30 days for free. Subscribe to the Daily Wire. It's 30 days for free, a lousy $8 a month. Come on. Then you're in the mailbag. You can ask all the questions you want. We will give you all the answers you need. But the mailbag is in the second half of the show. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you'll have to switch over to the Daily Wire or download us from iTunes or SoundCloud, and then you can subscribe. And meanwhile, of course, if you would pre-order, it's almost time for the book to be available. The Great Good Thing, A Secular Jew Comes to Faith in Christ is my memoir. It's not supposed to be published till September 20th, but I suspect it's going to be available soon because they're sending me copies. And when I get copies, Amazon gets copies. When Amazon gets copies, they don't care. The pub date is, they could care less. They'll just send it to you. So if you order it now and you send me the receipt at aklavan@dailywire.com, I will sign a sticker that you can put in the book and have a signed edition of the book. But even without my signature, it's worth reading. What can I tell you? All right. So Trump is going to Mexico, and Hillary should be going to jail, but instead is going to the White House. Close, jail, White House, what's the difference? Here's from the LA Times with the latest Hillary news. The State Department says about 30 emails that may be related to the 2012 attack on the U.S. compounds in Benghazi, Libya, are among the thousands of Hillary Clinton emails recovered during the FBI's recently closed investigation into her use of a private server. There's 30 new. They're looking to see if they're duplicates. But a U.S. district court judge on Tuesday, ordered these things released, and they said, get them out there faster. The judge questioned why it would take so long to release so few documents and urged that the process be sped up. He ordered the department to report to him in a week, the State Department to report to him in a week with more details about why the review process would take a full month. It's because we're hiding them. What do you mean? It's like we can't find. The hearing was held, the hearing at the U.S. District Court of Appeals was held as one of several lawsuits filed by the conservative group Judicial Watch, who was operating on behalf of course, the New York Times and CBS, NBC, and ABC, which haven't filed any FOIA demands for these presses. So if not for Judicial Watch, these would never come out. But let's just for a minute remember what Hillary told us in May about the emails.
After I left office, the State Department asked former secretaries of state for our assistance in providing copies of work-related emails from our personal accounts. I responded right away and provided all my emails that could possibly be work-related, which totaled roughly 55,000 printed pages, even though I knew that the State Department already had the vast majority of them. We went through a thorough process to identify all of my work-related emails and deliver them to the State Department.
She left out the part about the bleach bit destroying all the emails they didn't want to hear, and also the acid to destroy the smoking gun. You know, what I love about Hillary Clinton, it's like, you know, Hillary uses sulfuric acid to destroy smoking gun, and the New York Times headline is, "There's no smoking gun." You know, that's what she said in May. Then last week on Hillary Kimmel, a little different, just a little bit different.
My emails are so boring.
Yeah,
and I mean, I'm embarrassed about that. They're so boring. And so we've already released, I don't know, 30,000 plus. So what's a few more?
What's a few more? And they're about Benghazi. And what difference does that make, right? We already know that doesn't make any difference. All right. But Clinton is still ahead. Clinton's lead has shrunk. In early August, it was 7.6%. This is from The Hill. And she did make it to 50% support. That's obviously after the convention. It's now shrunk to 4.3 points in the Real Clear Politics average, and she's fallen short of the 50% mark in the last 6 national polls. She holds a 4.3 point advantage nationally over Trump, but she leads across the board in the battleground states that will decide the election. Trump's path to the necessary 270 electoral votes is exceedingly narrow, with a handful of swing states, Colorado and Virginia among them, already apparently out of reach. So he's having a hard time, but it doesn't matter because he's moved to Mexico. Or maybe he hasn't moved to Mexico, he just went to Mexico to meet with President Enrique Peña Nieto. What these guys are going to talk about, I don't know. It actually, I have to say, this actually seems like a smart move to me, because what can happen? I mean, Nieto can like kind of wag his finger in his face and lecture him, which is always a mistake with Trump, because he'll just explode and blow you away. Or they can come, you know, look to have some comedy and friendliness, and then Trump can come back and say, oh, all right, you know, we won't deport all the mothers and children from the country, you know, which he's going to do. He's making a speech tonight that he's delayed, I think, 3 times already. He's put it off 3 times. He's going to make a speech tonight on his new immigration policy. And you know, I guess he comes back from Mexico and he says, oh, we talked it over and we, you know, this is the art of the deal and all this stuff. So I don't know. It seems to me like a smart move. And now he's going to come out and say what everybody suspects he's going to say is that he's going to stop talking about this deportation force. There's not going to be any mothers ripped from the arms of their children. And everybody, remember that before it was the bad guys leave immediately and then everybody has to leave, and the good guys can come back legally. And this was, you know, don't forget, okay, this was a big deal. This is what made Donald Trump. It wasn't just the wall. I mean, the wall was the big thing, but this whole tough guy talk on immigration. And if you happened to be listening to this show, this was just when we were getting started, so there were only a few people listening, but they would hear me saying, this is never going to happen. But he insisted this is happening. Let's go back. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine and listen to Trump back in the day.
We're going to get rid of the bad ones because we have some really bad ones in here right now. And you know that gang members in L.A., you look at some of these gangs, they're 100% illegal immigrants. They're going to be gone, okay? And they're going to be gone fast. And they're not going to be in our prisons for us to take care of them. Our prisons are bursting with illegals right now.
What about the law-abiding majority? That's
now
the big
you have people
question.
that came in illegally,
Yes.
and they're called illegal immigrants, and they're here illegally. They're going to have to go, and they're going to have to come back in legally. And otherwise, we don't have a country. And if we don't do that, we don't have a country. They're going to have to go, and they're going to have to come in legally. They're going to have to come in through a system. You have right now, Aaron, millions of people that want to come into the country. Millions. They're on a waiting list. They've gone through documentation. They've gone through all sorts of things, and they're waiting on a list, in some cases, for years.
Yes.
And it's very unfair to them. It's very unfair. Now, you can do the work visa thing in terms of the grapes, because I have people, friends with the grapes, and they may need people. We can do lots of different things.
For the agriculture.
But to come here and stay here, you have to come into the country legally. We either have a country or we don't.
Okay, and the big deal about this, remember, was that everybody else was weak. So we don't know what he's going to say tonight. He may just stick to his guns. We're going to deport everybody. They're going to all get on buses, 12 million people. And that, by the way, is a low estimate, right? That's the anti-Ann Coulter estimate. Ann believes that I think 250 million of the 300 million Americans are illegal immigrants, and they have to go. She wants like the entire country to leave, except for white people who came over on the Mayflower. But a little unfair, but just a little joke, Ann. But the important thing about this was that everybody else was weak. Remember, Marco Rubio was the Gang of Eight, and he wanted amnesty, and John Kasich was weak and all this stuff. And here was Kasich back in the day. This is after the debate in late February. Kasich comes on, and he reacted to what Trump was saying.
And what I want to do is finish the border, make sure we can protect the border, but then we can have a guest worker program. And for the 11.5 million people who came here illegally, if they've not broken the law since they've been here, I would give them a path to legalization and not to citizenship. They'd have to pay back taxes. And that's practical, Eric. I mean, we're not going to be deporting, going and yanking people out of their homes. That's just a fantasy. So I think what I'm proposing is something that actually could pass the Congress of the United States and actually bring Republicans and Democrats together to get that finally done.
Well, so Donald Trump and Ted Cruz say send the 11 or 12 million back first, let them come back in, get in the back of line. You disagree with those?
How are they going to get them? They're not going to just leave. Are you kidding me? What are you going to do? Drive into neighborhoods and start yanking people out of their homes, leaving their kids on the front porch screaming? I mean, that's not who we are, and that's not going to happen. It will never happen. They'll never pass it. It's just not going to be what we're going to do.
Okay, and the point about this, the reason I'm playing this is because remember, this was weak, weird, funny-shouldered John Kasich. We're all laughing at him. Donald Trump was the strong man. Some of us, just to remind you, I don't want to say I told you so, but some of us kept saying, you can sound like a strong man and not be a strong man, and you can sound quiet, speak quietly, and actually be the stronger guy. That is just a truth of life. It's a truth, unfortunately, that many women forget and many men forget and follow that noise, that thing that sounds like strength, that thing that sounds like masculinity, but isn't. So now the important thing that Kasich said there is that it's a fantasy, okay? It's a thing that takes place in people's mind. We're going to deport all these people, these millions of people. People are going to watch on TV these women screaming and the babies screaming. They're going to look at that and they're all going to say, let's go and do that. Because the same people who were calling for that are going to see it on TV and start to say, how did we let this happen? Okay, so now it sounds like Trump is softening. He said himself there may be softening. Will there be a deportation force? It's to be determined. So a guy calls in Rush and says to Rush Limbaugh, you sold us this thing as if it were serious. And here's part of this exchange between this caller and Rush. Go ahead.
With all due respect, Rush, on Chuck Todd's show, he specifically said when asked the question, you mean you're going to rip the families apart? He said, no, I'm not going to rip the families apart. They all have to go, even the U.S. citizen children. He then got in the middle of the debate and the argument between Marco and Ted, when Ted wanted legalization and Marco wanted citizenship as part of a comprehensive plan, that he said they're both wrong and they're both being absurd. They all have to go, or we don't have a nation of laws. Come on. You were watching the debates as well as the rest of us were. You know exactly what he said, and you know exactly the way he ridiculed everybody on that stage.
Yeah. Well, I guess the difference is, or not the difference, I guess the thing is, this is going to enrage you. I can choose a path here to try to mollify you, but I never took him seriously on this.
but 30 million or 15 or 10 million, excuse me, 10 million people did.
Yeah, and they still don't care. That's my point. They still don't care. They're going to stick with him no matter what.
Speaking truth and letting that guy have his say. We're going to have to say goodbye to you on Facebook. Come over to the Daily Wire and hear the rest. It just gets more interesting with the mailbag.